Okay, so what are we doing?
Welcome.
So this is to Dustin's World.
No, this is the Tan Line website. This is our,
Where's the camera? Oh, it's right there.
right there.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So basically, I'll explain to you and to everyone else what my brief vision that I just had would be to use the amazing technology that I have in this little laptop here to frequently interview not only the members of the house, but people who come by here.
Okay.
And I can just bring it out in the living room anytime we want to set up a little interview.
And where's the mic? That's the mic?
No, the mic's built into the computer also.
Okay.
So, I guess I just want to introduce you and have you maybe just give a couple minute bio about yourself and the things that you feel you do in the community here in the household, as well as what you feel like this project
And this is for Tan Lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna ask me questions?
Well,
or I'm gonna have to struggle for this one, right?
No. I mean, like, basically just anything that comes to your mind concerning the household and what it represents and what you feel like your purpose is.
Well, I think that most of the people in the house should leave. First and foremost. Well, I mean, I don't know. Have you done an intro to what the tannery is?
I did a brief intro, but if you have anything that you want to say, it won't be redundant. You know, I mean, as much info as possible is better. You know?
But I'm going to talk to you through the computer.
That's fine.
To you.
Yeah.
It's confusing that way.
I know.
You know, here we are. We're at the tannery. It's 2008 here in Santa Cruz, California, which, for all intents and purposes, is a coastal community that really had been a retirement community for a long time. And, you know, fast forward to 2008, we were living on an 8.5 acre piece of property that was formerly a tannery for 150 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, of all the crazy things to think about, to take a tannery and repurpose it to be an art center is, in and of itself, semi-insane. However, what makes sense, really, in a lot of ways, is that the Saul's Tannery, which went through 3 ownerships over 150 years, was one of the largest employers inside this community. And what we're looking to do, and hopefully it'll happen in my lifetime, is to see a whole other economy happen out of basically tapping into an art pool. So here we sit in this very unique situation, in this interim construction phase, while this art center is being constructed. We're living in this house. We're living in the Crone House, which was founded by Jacob Crone and his family back in 1864. And they lived here for quite a few years, and he is buried that way, across the river. Oh, wow. His gravesite is. So we're sitting in a house that a very entrepreneurial individual built, and his family lived, and then was passed on to multiple generations and consequently other owners. And I only bring this up in light of that this all, through serendipity, makes sense, is that as we transfer economies from an industrial economy to a service-based economy, there's nothing that makes more sense than to turn something like this, as insane as it sounds, into an arts community that is a viable art economy. And so that really is where we sit right now. And so in this last year that I've lived here, we sit here as caretakers and property care owners of this property while it gets converted into this art center. What we're doing here in this house is really trying to create a microcosm of what this will eventually be at a much larger level. So in this house lives 5 people.
You mean on a larger community level?
At a much
Santa Cruz?
At a much larger community level within Santa Cruz, but my real hope is that this becomes a benchmark for society in general.
Great.
And I think, you know, coming from a large city where I grew up in New York City, where everything is already so large scale, it's interesting to operate on a smaller scale and see in this new world order how a smaller community can actually have a greater impact on the larger global area. You know, because growing up in New York City, I assumed that basically everybody was going to follow, which they did for a long time, you know, the lessons of New York City, that
as a model
for everything. And of course that's no longer true. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things that we couldn't predict have taken place in the world, and that includes the economy. And so here we sit in a small community, and you know, I know the thing that's challenging and interesting for me is that in a small community, there's oftentimes a smaller mentality about what your footprint is on the world. And
the ego image of the community.
The ego, that we want to keep it small, we are small, we're neighborhood based, but neighborhoods is really the metaphor for everything on the planet. So what we're trying to accomplish, and I think we're doing it in a lot of ways, is use this living experience here at the tannery, this house, to set a standard for what then gets infused into the Tannery Arts Center itself, and then hopefully that then sets a benchmark for what happens in the global community about how people work together, about how people live together, how they work together, and then how they develop a sustainable community. And part of sustaining is, economics, and I'm not just focusing on economics, but it's a whole series of things. So I think, here, at one point, somebody will look back 10 years from now at 2007, 2008, and look at the Crone House, look at those that lived here, what choices were made, what we do, how we decided to interact with each other, and how can that be a model for a much larger scale project. So as an example, there's 5 core people that live here. We have project-based people inside the house on every single day. On any given day, we have 30 to 40 people operating in some way, within the art community here in the house. We're going to now roll that out 9 months from now to about 500 more people on the property. Then a year from that, it will be another 500. Within inside the entire scope of this project, a 4-year scope, we're talking about 1,500 people that will be living, working, doing something related to the arts on this 8.5 acre property. And so the things that will make that work is intent, purpose, direction, vision, all those things. And hopefully, any early standard bearer, which is what I consider us, can set a standard for what is to be expected from that. And so my hope is that what we're doing, the work that we're doing, the work that we struggle every day to refine is going to be an example of how this property 10, 15 years from now sustains itself with all the new challenges that arise in the world, arise here in this local community. So that's kind of my little framework of
and so in saying it like that, do you also take this as your personal work, or do you feel like this is more of a service-oriented position that you're putting yourself in?
My personal work? Well, I mean, it's obvious. There's a lot of my person in this.
Totally. I mean, we're living here, obviously. We're
living here. I've vested a lot in this. I guess I'm not sure the simple way to answer that. I'll try and make it as brief as possible.
We've got about 2 minutes left. We can do another video, but this one will cut out.
Is basically, I take this world personally.
Yeah.
And I take it a lot more personally than I used to.
Yeah.
And so as a consequence, I mean, I think that, there's a part of it that's personal, but more importantly, it's service to society. Society desperately needs help. And I don't think people realize, I don't think we've made a strong enough case in the world about how much help we all need, and give ourselves the time and the effort to say, let's really contribute something to us. We're always contributing to what we think are the greater goods of our own lives, but the reality is that we negate really working on us, and when us doesn't start to work, we start to point fingers and say it's that person's fault, it's that organization's fault.
Hence the term dysfunction.
Yeah, it's the city, it's the state, it's the world, it's George Bush, it's everybody else's fault except ours. Yeah. But if we don't devote the time to us, then we can't have a great expectation for what us really is. And so, it's a combination of a personal belief system, but really the greater thing is, I would prefer to spend my time, the rest of my days on this planet, devoted to making the greater us work, because we all benefit by that. If we're surrounded by people that are thriving and are generous because of that, then we live in a much better place.
Amen, brother.
I don't want to be surrounded by a lot of me's. I know how to work 20 seconds. So really, in summation, that's really, the focus of my time here. And I'm planning to spend, the next 5 years of my life, hopefully, carrying that mission on here at the tannery. And we're going to see. It's going to be an interesting ride. And there are very few places in the world that can that are doing this right now.
Thank you, Kirby Scudder.
Is that fair?
Amen.